What's going on today, Internet? Selfish here with Retroid Spec. Today we're taking a look at the Retroid Pocket 6. And I have this whole script written out here for the intro, but I'm so excited I just want to get into it and start talking about it. So let's take a look. It's not often that a device comes out and it's actually way better than I thought it was going to be. The Retroid Pocket 6 is really proving me wrong. And I'm going to kind of try to explain that, but it's really hard to get excited about a device sometimes because they're all so similar these days. And especially with SoCs and things like that, I really thought with the Retroid Pocket 6, we were just going to get another AYN Odin 2 type device in a Retroid Pocket 5 form factor. And though that seems to be kind of what we got, it is actually not what we got at all. So if you look at like the G2, which is just like the Retroid Pocket 5, same exact form factor as the Retroid Pocket 5. In fact, you can share accessories between the two of them. I kind of thought that the Retroid Pocket 6 was going to be more like the Odin 2 Mini, which is one of my favorite devices and makes actually using the Retroid Pocket 5 and the G2 difficult sometimes because I love this so much and it's got that Vita style to it. Not the Ambernick Vita style, but like an actual more of a Vita style, and it can actually play Vita games, unlike the new RG Vita that's coming out here shortly. So this one here just has kind of everything that I ever wanted. So I didn't see like a real value in the Retroid Pocket 6, similar to how I felt about the Retroid Pocket 5, though I did find a love for the Retroid Pocket 5 after some time of using it. But the Retroid Pocket 6, I was like, well, we're just going to get a 5 with the internals of the Odin 2 Mini, and that's kind of what we got, sure. But that's not what it feels like at all. This feels like a fresh new device. For one, Retroid actually added back buttons. You know what, in fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go through the I.O. of this here real quick, just so we can kind of get a better feel for everything that's going on here. And then we'll go over some things I really do like about the Retroid Pocket 6 because it has been a very exciting device. So we'll start with that I.O. and we'll start at the top like we always do. We do have our shoulder and trigger buttons. These are analog triggers. We also do have our power and volume up and down. On the back, we do have some ventilation holes for the intake and the outtake. Is it an outtake? Exhaust. For the intake and the exhaust. And we do have these new back buttons, which is something new to the Retroid line of devices. I can't think of another one that has back buttons. In fact, I'm pretty sure that none of the other ones do, just off the top of my head. There's going to be nothing on the left or the right, but on the bottom here, we do have the USB-C hole, which also does display out. We do have a 3.5 hole if you want to use your awesome headphones with this. And then you do have a memory card hole with a little manhole cover over the top of it so your memory card doesn't come falling out. On the front here, we do have start and select, or the menu buttons. We also do have a home and a back button down here on the right and left-hand side. We do have face buttons, which are really nice. They're very similar to your other Retroid face buttons, though they do seem to be a little bit less clicky, which is nice. They still have that good rebound and everything else like that, but just not as clicky and loud as some of the other Retroid devices. We do have our D-pad, which is your traditional Retroid D-pad, and it feels really good. And then we do have Hall effect sticks, along with a 5.5-inch AMOLED display that is at 1920 by 1080, so it is a 16 by 9 display. We'll go through a couple of the specs here too while we're doing it, and we do have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which is the same processor you are going to see in the Odin 2 Mini. Now, this device has recently been discontinued. In fact, it oddly became discontinued right as the Retroid Pocket 6 was coming out, but they're definitely not the same company. You know, don't get the two confused, Retroid and AYN. This is also using the Adreno 740 GPU. This does come in 8 and 12 gig variants as far as RAM goes. This one here is the 12 gig variant, and there's also 128 and 256 gigabyte variants for storage, respectively, going with the 8 and 12. Like I said, we do have Hall effect sticks here, which do work really well. They feel good. I actually like the stick covers on these. I think these are different than the Retroid Pocket 6. I have my dual screen set up on my Retroid Pocket 6 right now, so that's why I'm not busting it out for this video. But I'm pretty sure these are going to be different stick covers. Now, they are small, you know, Switch-style sticks. I wish they were bigger. There does seem to be like there's some room here, too, where they could have made them possibly a little bigger. They might have had to make them a little bit taller, though, which would have made this less pocketable. Now, we do have Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.3 in here, so you are going to be able to do some good streaming with your Wi-Fi 7. My dog is going crazy. Somebody's at my door. We do have dual speakers here on the front as well, and we do have a 6,000 milliamp battery, which gets some good performance. So even with the release of the AYN Odin 3, which is a far more powerful handheld, and it really is coming to its own with new driver support, the Retroid Pocket 6 has that proven driver support thanks to AYN and the Odin 2. And out of the box, it's phenomenal. We're not waiting for anything new, though we are still getting new drivers for it, which is making it perform even better. Also, we're seeing better performance in the AYN devices using the 8 Gen 2, but this here is really come of its own. It is more comfortable than the other Retroid devices too, and that is in part due to the new humps on the back. They are slightly bigger than their previous devices. And part of that probably is because of the buttons, but they're smooth instead of textured like we saw in the G2. Obviously, we have these rear buttons as well and a smaller intake hole. But the ergonomics are what are really getting me, and this is definitely better than either the G2 or the Retroid Pocket 5 or even the AYN-owned Mini, which doesn't have tons of ergonomics, though for some reason I do find this device really comfortable because it kind of curves around your hand, where you're not getting that curve here, but you are able to hold on to it pretty well. And now they do also have a grip for this, which really works well. Some of the grips, you know, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're just kind of indifferent. This grip does work really well, and I find myself playing with this even more than I do on my Retroid Pocket 5. And it has a very good curvature that follows the lines of the device, and it's very good quality, and it comes in and out easily. So if I just need to put this into my pocket, I could throw the Retroid Pocket 6 in my pocket and kind of move on with life and go and play this wherever it is that I'm going. But if I'm at home and lounging around, I literally just slap the thing on and we get even more comfort. So it adds more hours of playing on the device. Now, thanks to the Retroid Pocket 6, because it does support Wi-Fi 7, I feel like I need to get a new router in my house, and we just finally got to Wi-Fi 6. But I'd really like to be able to take advantage of that. And we're getting really good streaming here just on Wi-Fi 6 with this handheld. Better than any of the Retroids we've had in the past. I am seeing less latency. I've used it with Moonlight, and I've also used it with Steam Link, and it has worked very well from my PC. And that's the kind of streaming that I typically like to do, though I also do like to do cloud gaming through Game Pass. And I'll be honest, this thing actually plays pretty well through cloud gaming. I am still a huge G-Cloud fan just because of the feel and the size of it. It's amazing because it's been out for like 4 years and the price seems to never be coming down. But this is obviously a more performant device, and I am finding myself using this a lot now. This has been on my nightstand a lot lately, which says something about it because that's typically where my G-Cloud has been for the last few years. So even though it's a smaller screen, I'm still finding that I like to do that streaming on here. I'll show off a little bit of that streaming here within this review, as well as some gameplay. And I found on here, I'm actually playing a lot with Game Native and Game Hub, more so than I normally do. And I have been playing with it a lot too on my Odin 3, just really trying out some of the new drivers. But because this is more mature with the drivers, we're actually getting more availability on here as far as what games we can play and what's optimized for this device. And so I'm actually able to play more of my library, which has been a fantastic experience. And then on top of that, with emulation, you're going to get some PS Vita, but you're going to get PS and some PS3 and some Nintendo Wii U. And then your normal systems you're able to emulate. So you're really able to emulate the top end of the top end right now. Now, not every game is going to play, and obviously the newer the system, the less that you're going to get. But this actually does offer some good gameplay even within those systems on the top end. Now, I don't like how hot this gets when you're doing things like playing Game Hub. Over time, the device can get very hot, and or the fan starts kicking off, and it sounds like there's an airplane taking off. It reminds me a lot of the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, where it just had that really loud fan in it. We don't get it all the time, but it does when you're playing things like Game Hub. You tend to get to a point where it gets hot enough where that fan starts to kick on. But in Game Hub, I'm often using the performance mode instead of high performance, which has been fantastic. So we're not chewing through as much battery, which is probably good for when that fan does kick on, and then we're going to be using more battery. I do not have a bad thing to say about this display and the really inky blacks that it has. It is crazy. I mean, it looks like a lot of the other displays we're seeing now with the OLEDs, obviously, but it does look very nice on here. And even on the yellow, you don't, it still feels like it just runs off the screen, where a lot of times you want to get a black handheld so that you can't see where the display ends and the handheld starts. But I actually think that this is a good contrast with this black and yellow, probably why Bumblebees chose it, as their color scheme, because it really does complement each other very well. And we are talking 120 hertz here, so you are able to do things like black frame insertion. Not something I typically do on handhelds, but it is something that is capable here. Through RetroArch, you can put in black frame insertion if you'd like to while you're playing your emulated games. Now, you might start to see the lines, or you might get that headache that some people get when there's that flickering in the screen. I don't see that flickering. It doesn't seem to bother me, but I know people do and are affected by that. It's possible you might get more of that with black frame insertion. Again, I'm not sensitive to it. We'll look here when I'm done recording. We might see this on the video, but I'm not noticing it right now on my camera. So I think we might be okay. So that gameplay should give you a little introduction here to the Retroid Pocket 6 and what it can do, kind of what I talked about at the beginning, but it really is a phenomenal device. Now, there are a couple things we haven't gone over yet. Retroid kind of had a happy accident and let the community make some choices on this device that they haven't allowed you to do on devices in the past. And one of those choices was where you wanted your joysticks to be. And by joysticks, I mean your left joystick. You can either go top or bottom. Your traditional Retroid devices have had that joystick on the bottom and your D-pad on top, which makes it more of a retro device. And a lot of people are very keen to that and why they buy Retroid handhelds, because they do have that D-pad on top. Now, I made the argument, and I think others did too, that the Retroid Pocket 6 is too powerful to be a D-pad-centric device. It doesn't make sense. With the 8 Gen 2 in here, you're going to be doing more than playing SNES on this, and so you are going to want to have that joystick up on top. It's going to make it more comfortable, not only for first-person shooters, but just in general, to be set up more like a modern controller. So Retroid gave us the choice whether we wanted that D-pad on the top or the bottom. And on their website, you can order either one, as well as the different size variations we went over earlier, but you do have top or bottom. I stuck with it on the top. This was kind of a differentiated Retroid and AYN in the past, but now we have the Retroid with it on top. I'm a little bummed. Initially, there was the buttons across here instead of buttons on the back. So we had these buttons right here along with some menu buttons, but they got rid of that when they did the joystick variation. But all in, I think they did a pretty good job here. It's a very nice looking and feeling device. And even without the case, it is very comfortable, and it wouldn't be nearly as comfortable if you were cramped on the bottom for most of the games, at least that I've been playing on it personally. Because again, I've been playing a lot of Game Hub, and I've been playing a lot of Switch emulation and things like that on here. So I don't know that I would find it that comfortable, and that's part of my Retroid Pocket 5 experience or the G2, is that I really always wish that that joystick was on top, because they were getting powerful enough then that it should have been that way. And if you go back and look at my posts, I definitely talked about that when those devices came out. Prices are a little reflective of the RAM and storage prices right now with the Ramageddon we got going on. Unfortunately, it seems to have affected the pricing with Retroid, but it's still not as high as some of the other devices that are out there. So it's still price to performance. I think that this is probably one of the best devices on the market today for price to performance, especially when you put it up against the Ambernicks, which do have some pretty good performance on their 8300 devices, like the 477M or 477V. If you want a vertical, that 477V is absolutely amazing, but they're still not going to get the performance yet that you're going to get out of these Retroids with the 8 Gen 2 from Snapdragon. And that is because there are turnip drivers for the 8 Gen 2. Now, GameHub is working on getting drivers made actually for the SoCs that are in the Ambernicks, but those aren't out yet. And right now, the research they're doing is on the 9300 variant. So the current Android line may never see those drivers. We just recently found out that they're doing 9300 variant testing right now. That doesn't mean they're not going to do 8300, but they're not doing testing on the current line. And that's because the 9300 is more current as far as SoC that came out more recently. But getting back on topic here, it is really cool to be able to somewhat customize the device for your own. As far as the pros and cons of this, I think we've kind of already touched on most of them, but we'll go through a couple of things real quick. I do think this is very comfortable. It's much more comfortable with the TPU cover on it, but it's still comfortable either way. I'm not one to normally use these back buttons, and I actually wish they were a little bit more inset. Now, it doesn't matter if you got the TPU cover, because then they are, but if you're not using that cover, I have a tendency to hit them every once in a while when I get a little excited when I'm playing DuckTales. That's the only game I've had a problem with it so far, but every once in a while when I'm playing DuckTales, I will accidentally hit the buttons, and that's kind of a bummer. I feel like Retroid could possibly have changed how these sticks are just slightly. It seems they're exactly even pretty much with the buttons, whether it be the D-pad or the face buttons. It would have been nice to have seen them offset a little bit. I just think it would have made them easier to use and also added to that comfort factor. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers, and we got to get a joystick on top. These joysticks work well. They do react like the Hall sticks we've seen in other Retroid devices, so nothing too crazy there. And these do use that crazy screen cover that is hard to put on, but once it is on, it looks good. So I've got a screen cover on here. You do have to do a little bit of lining up, which is kind of just part of how this is built. But because there's a ridge around the buttons and around the joysticks, you do have to get it above that. Otherwise, you're going to get some massive bubbles. One thing that I do worry about, and I don't know that it's necessary, but since we are still getting driver support for the 8 Gen 2, how much longer we'll get that as new games come out and things like that? How long will this get driver support for? Because it has been getting driver support for the last couple of years for the AYN devices that were using the 8 Gen 2. So I do have a concern about that. It isn't becoming an older chipset, even though it's very powerful, and it does everything that we needed to do today. It's just the longevity of the device. Now, granted, the 8 Gen 2 is outperforming the emulators that we have available right now, but we are seeing a lot in the emulator space as far as movement goes and getting a lot of updates recently. So emulators are catching up to the 8 Gen 2, and I'm just hoping that this here will have some longevity to it beyond that. I don't see it not having that, but it is something that is on top of mind, so I figured I would share it with you here. All in right now, I think that the Retroid Pocket 6 is definitely flagship device. It does a phenomenal job for everything that we would want it to do. I'm surprised at how comfortable it is, and I'm surprised I'm actually picking it up more than my Odin 2 Mini. I tend to always carry that with me, and since I got this device, I've been carrying it, and I don't think it's like a new car smell kind of thing here. I think it really is a device that I am actually enjoying, and I can usually tell the difference, so it's not because it's new, but it's because it's doing everything I want it to do, and possibly even a little bit better, with a little bit more comfort and a little bit more style. Also, orange is my favorite color, and this is a yellow orange, and so it looks great. I didn't think we were going to get a handheld this color this year. I said last year it was going to be the color of yellow. All of our yellow handhelds last year were Linux handhelds for lower end emulation. Now we're starting to see some things pump up the jam, and I'm super excited about it. So hopefully we'll continue to see that going forward. If you want to get yourself a Retroid Pocket 6, there'll be links down in my thingamabob. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. Look at this thing. It is beautiful. Those links will help support the channel, and I do appreciate it in advance. But yep, right down there, thingamabob. Look out for more content on this to come. I got a couple other projects I'm working on with this right now, so stand by for those. That's why I'm trying to keep this one short and sweet. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share this video with your friends, because sharing is caring. It also helps grow the channel. Also, if you're looking for any news in the hobby, check out retrospect.gg. That's where I kind of update way more often than we do here, obviously, on the video channel. Throughout the week, we're constantly updating the website and trying to get stuff to you as fast as we possibly can. New information, also some tech reviews and some guides. So just another resource for you to use. Up here on the screen, there are going to be a couple videos that YouTube chose for you to watch. Take a look at them. They think that you're going to like them, and so I can't disagree with that. Also, if you like this content, you're going to get more of it there. But that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.